Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Solar Sidekicks. My name is Pat Southwell, and I will be the host as usual. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the traditional landowners of where we're recording this today, and that is the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to all elders, past, present, and emerging. So today we are doing episode 33, and we've got quite a special guest in the studio. Just before I introduce the guest, just wanted to let everyone know I've got a little bit behind with a few of the podcasts. I've still got 2 more to release. So, we sort of were quite ambitious and recorded 4 of them on the Monday before All Energy. So, and then I decided to go to Thailand, and it's just been crazy since I got back. So, I'm sure we'll be well and truly into the festive season by the time this gets released. So, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone. I'm sure if you're listening in around that time. But this is the first one we've actually done since All Energy, so I haven't recorded for 5 or 6 weeks. But be that as it may, I think the guest we've got today will make up for that. Also, just on a personal note, I just anyone following my cricket journey at Carrum, I was able to bring up my first ever century with the bat a couple of weeks ago. So I've been talking to a few people about that, and a few people in the solar industry have been asking me about it. So that's a huge personal achievement for me. Clocked 130 not out. A few bombs over into the Pirate Park at Carrum here, and had a really good day out. So anyway, enough about me with that. Let's get into
another 16 years. You'll be in the veterans.
Probably I might be because I qualify now.
The Veterans Ashes series is on at the moment.
Is it really?
They played a match last weekend at Barrel.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, at the Bradman Field.
Oh, well, maybe I've got something to look forward to. Oh, well, anyone who knows that voice, that is the voice of Geoff Stapleton from GSES. So I want to thank you for coming in and welcome to Carrum, Geoff.
Thank you for inviting me down.
No worries. No problem at all. All right, so I think most people would know who you are, Geoff. You've been around for pretty much anyone. I don't want to embarrass you too much, but someone said to me, "Oh, Pat, who have you got on this week?" They haven't been in the industry all that long, and I said, "Oh, I've got the guy basically who invented solar in Australia." So I'm probably not that far. That far off.
Say that.
Not going to claim that.
Claim that.
No, I don't think you'll claim it, but I think there's some people that might think that's the case.
I could at least say I was trained by the person who invented solar in Australia.
Is that right? Who invented solar in Australia then? Who you reckon?
Solar thermal was back in the 40s, 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
But when it comes to PV, it's Martin Green.
Yeah, okay, it is Martin Green, yeah.
And actually tomorrow night, as I've mentioned to you, it's there. University of New South Wales has got a party on to celebrate 50 years since he opened up the solar lab in 74.
50 years from 1974.
And he taught me in 81.
Yeah, right. 1981, okay. So is that your start? Is that your journey? That's when your journey began? That's when I was born, mate. So
that's a bit scary. I did electrical engineering. Well, when I was young, I was interested in the weather.
Yep.
So I actually signed up to do a physics degree. And thought, what do I do with that if I don't decide the meteorology?
What got you interested in the weather? Because I'm a real weather nerd, and I'm interested in patterns of weather and what's happening and
surfing.
Yep.
Yeah. So then I spoke to my teacher at the time and said, "What do you do with like physics degree if you don't?" And she said, "Why don't you do a practical engineering course?" I asked my 2 best mates what they were doing. They both said electrical engineering. I went, "Oh, fair enough." They both dropped out after the first year and did other things.
Yep.
I stayed in and hated it.
Yep.
And got sick and had to take a year off. That's what I meant by during that year off, I discovered the solar section at the uni.
Right.
So in 81, they allowed me to do my master's subjects as a 4th year elective.
Yep.
And I specialised in power and also did solar water pumping as my thesis.
Solar water pumping. Yeah, right.
So that's what got me into it. But then I came out and it wasn't much of an industry.
No. Well, we're gonna go through that today because I'm quite intrigued by a lot of this because I joined the solar industry in 2009, right? So, and for me, it was this really small industry. There's a few people popping up doing things. I didn't know if it was going to sort of last or not. I'd heard a few things in the background, not that much because I was a sparky. And a lot of the stuff that happened, there's a big history. There's a lot of stuff that did happen up until that point. I'm pretty much over all the stuff that that's happened since then, because I've been quite engaged in the industry. But there was a huge history of things that happened up to that point. Do you reckon that was around the point where things sort of started getting big? You reckon it was just before that?
Yeah,
around 2009?
2007, 2008 when it really...
Yeah.
Like, if I remember the figures correctly, I think that's the year it went from 400 accredited installers to 4,000.
Yeah, that's right.
That was 2007 to 8, around that period.
I think back then we used to get your number used to represent where you were, how many people had been accredited in front of you, I think.
Correct. Yeah.
So you're number 1, is that right?
501.
Is that right?
Yeah, we wanted to make it sound like...
Okay, yes, no. That's right. Oh no, I remembered there was when I was at the CEC, there was a bit of a ceremony with someone. I think it might have been when they got the 5,000s.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a little photo shoot with you and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we presented a training course.
That's right.
A few training courses.
Yeah, no, that's right. I do remember that. Well, I think I was close to bang on 3,000, I reckon. Right. Something along those lines. 3,044. I can't remember what the number was anymore. But that's, yeah, so around that time is when things started to boom. I did notice even from the time I started in the industry, and then even a few months later, things just started getting bigger and bigger. Yep. And you could tell there were more people getting into it. And then throughout, I think like sort of more around 2010, I noticed that's when some of the unscrupulous sort of characters sort of started getting in. Yeah. They just saw the rebates as a bit of a chance to make a quick buck and kind of get in, get out, whatever they needed to do. So I did notice that was the case. Were they around in the early days? And let's call the early days before 2009. Were they sort of around a little bit then too?
Yeah, look, the original accreditation scheme and the original focus of the accreditation scheme was for that reason. Yep. And in the early 90s, the industry people were already getting tired of the shonkies running around the bush, telling people 8 modules will run your whole house.
Yeah.
And we're talking 40-watt modules.
Yeah.
Right. And so there was a lot of people who would just not go off diesel. They said, Joe bought a solar system, it doesn't work. Yeah. So solar just had the reputation that actually just didn't work. Yeah. Instead of being poorly designed.
Yeah, right.
So that was part of the reason why the accreditation scheme and the focus of the original scheme when we started in 92 was a lot on designing off-grid systems correctly. Yep. And doing the load assessment and talking to the customer.
Yeah, that was a big thing, wasn't it? The design element of it was so important back then.
We viewed that more important than the installation at the time, because that was what was damaging the industry. And look, as you know, once the boom happened here, I was working a lot overseas. For the last 20 years, and same thing. Solar all through Africa was just viewed as second class because it was always overpromised by the salespeople, and that's really what we tried to focus on in the 90s. Yeah, and it also did start because, unfortunately, somebody did electrocute themselves on their own system in Queensland. Yep. And
when was that? Was that early 90s?
It was 92.
92, yeah.
Yep. And it was at the ATRA conference in 92 where Ralph Taylor and Lindsay Hart from Celatronic came along and said, the government said we've got to start doing something called will regulate us. And that's when we decided to set up the accreditation scheme and the training. Yeah. So the original training was run by the Industry Association. Yeah.
And what was the Industry Association called then?
The Solar Energy Industry Association of Australia.
There we go.
It'd been going since the 70s. Yep. Yeah, it was during the solar water heater boom of the 60s and 70s. Yeah. And
so there was solar water heating. I don't know about this. Solar water heating in the 60s, was there?
Yeah, well...
What sort of solar water heating?
Edwards and Solar Heart started in the 40s.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so solar.
I didn't really know that. Well, so you see a lot of stuff, from around about 2000 onwards, you see the evacuated tubing and the panel, the larger panels, whatever they're called. I'm not into hot water that much. Was that technology around back in the 60s, or what did they use then?
Just flat plate.
Okay.
Flat plates, so you had the glass and really relied on the heat.
Okay.
Yep, solar thermosiphon.
Yeah.
So I think the first one of them are in the 1800s.
Is that right?
Not in Australia, but in California, and that something covered in something black.
Yeah.
Heats water up.
Yeah, that's right.
It's basically the principle of it. Yeah.
I mean, you still see a lot of pools being heated that way, don't you?
Yeah.
You're still seeing the ones that don't have heat pumps. They got the hose on the roof or just sort of snaking up and down.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So that started in the 70s, or possibly earlier, and then
Yep.
it was at ATRA 1990
Yeah.
when
Do you remember where that one was?
Adelaide.
Adelaide, yep.
Yeah. And
Do you remember all of them? Do you remember where they all were, just about?
I did
Yeah.
2008.
Okay.
I didn't really sit down and think about it.
Yeah, fair
But look,
Yeah.
ATRA was your Steve Ingles.
Yep.
Yeah, because Steve Ingle started in 76.
Mm.
Brian England was around the same time.
Yep.
John Cooper was probably early. John Payton,
Yep.
who Solar Charge.
Yep.
Well, he was known.
Some of these names I don't know, by the way. I'm just sort of nodding, but I've heard them round.
Well, he was known as the longest running SolarX dealer in the world. He was the first one.
Yeah, okay.
Because in the States, SolarX didn't have dealers. They just sold directly.
Mm.
So when people applied from Australia, so when you say I'm the father, no, there was people doing solar in the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. And also, just wanted to point something out to people who may have not have been in the industry all of that long. Like you sort of talk about the industry. The industry sort of seemed to boom on the back of Grid Connect. That seemed what had happened, but Grid Connect wasn't a thing until about 2000. Is that right? It was all off grid.
Yeah. Well,
all standalone.
Yeah. Well, it was all standalone.
Yeah.
It's sort of Germany had started and Japan was doing stuff, and there'd been token systems here and there.
Yep.
Literally, myself, Steve Garrett, and Dave Bartley, we actually installed the first one in New South Wales, but it was actually won by BP Solar and SolarX. They shared it.
Okay.
Demos at the uni. And I remember this so clearly that the minister came and opened it up. So it would have been 93 or 94.
Mm. And
he said, I've got to change the Act, because the Act said any generator that was connected to the grid had to be opened by the minister.
Imagine that now.
Yeah. So he said, I better get rid of that clause very quickly. But it was really 2000 onwards for the grid connected. That's when PVRP came in. I was consulting with Illawarra Electricity at the time.
Yep.
So I put my first grid connected system on 97 or 98.
Yeah, okay.
We had to have $1,000 worth of extra relays because I didn't trust the 1 kilowatt inverter was $4,000.
Yeah, right. But so hang on, you're talking about the relay. So are you talking about, if you've got like a grid protection thing now, which has just gone basically from 30 kilowatts to 200. So you're talking about a similar type of device for 1 kilowatt.
Well, my system was only 120 watts.
120 watts. You need grid protection on a 120 watt system.
We had to put that over voltage, under voltage, over the frequency.
Yeah.
And to this date, around on the transformer pole, because the program we had was called SunPower.
Yep.
It's still there in yellow letters, warning, SunPower system is connected to this transformer.
Is the system still there?
I've replaced that system, but I've still actually got the system.
Right.
2 60-watt modules are still in my backyard.
Okay.
The relays are there. I couldn't throw them out. You
have to update the sign. Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So Integral had a program of net. We called it net billing.
Yep.
So we fed in before the meter because we wanted to know exactly what the solar produced.
So gross, like a gross feed in.
Then we took it off it because we wanted to know how much solar was producing.
Yep.
And whether the loads went up.
Okay.
Right. Because if people's loads went up, they'd forget they bought another air conditioner.
Of course.
Yeah. So we wanted to make sure there wasn't any disputes in those early days.
How I'm interested. How clean was the power going back in around then? Like were you sort of matching the grid voltages really well and the frequencies? Was it all the same? Like it?
That's right. Well, the inverter is a follower.
Yeah. So so it was still the same.
Yeah, that's
still the same sort of technology as it is now.
If the grid was bad. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like for instance, that was one of the issues overseas.
Yep.
I remember working in Ghana and their first grid connected system when it went in 2000 only worked every Sunday.
Yeah.
The rest of the week, the grid frequency was too all over the place that the inverter couldn't connect.
What was causing that? Was just something else down the line at their generation?
Yeah, there's a lot of fluctuations in a lot of different countries around the world. So
okay.
Safe in relation to that.
So it's been the same technology. It's always just mimic the grid.
Yeah. Like in the 90s, what they called then, there was a utility group.
Yeah.
They actually wrote the first guidelines for interconnecting to the grid, which basically became 4777.
Okay.
2002, but that was written in the late 90s.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, This is quite an interesting history lesson we're getting here. All right, well, let's move into like around that sort of 2000 period, and you're talking about a lot more grid connect systems coming online. Who was doing the training?
Well,
people wouldn't. It can be dangerous stuff. Like So who was doing
basically, the industry association ran the training for the off grid.
Yep.
And then basically those who were accredited for off grid just were accredited for grid.
Yeah.
Because that's basically what it was. There was no electricians really doing it. Some people would have who weren't electricians would have an electrician on their team already.
Yep.
Yeah, for their off grid systems.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, but that was at the same period of time. There had been a Cert 4 in renewable energy at TAFE since the late 80s.
Okay.
Yeah, but mainly, I think one down here was doing it, one in Queensland, I think WA.
Is that still an accredited course?
It is still there in the things, but I don't know how many do it at all.
No.
And so that was what we looked at when the accreditation was being formed in 92. And we approached them, and that is one of the fortune to develop the course.
Yep.
So we ended up got the money and hired a fellow from down here, Ray Prowse, who was a TAFE teacher, and he wrote the first course for the off-grid with a team of people. And then, so that was running, but then we realised that we had technical guidelines.
Yep.
But we just knew, because we rewrote them because we wanted to protect the customer from the unscrupulous.
Yep. And
protect the installer from the unscrupulous.
Yep.
Because it didn't take much for a customer to say, I told you I was getting 2 fridges.
Yeah.
And the system fallen over and they might want to sue you. So we wrote guidelines, and then we thought the judge would just think the industry's protected itself. So that is why 4509 Part 2 got done.
Right.
As a guideline. Standards usually don't do that. We said, no, we need an industry guideline to make, that's been accepted by standards.
Yeah, okay.
And at the same time was when the federal government had said a lot of these courses at TAFEs were state-based.
Yep.
They wanted a national training package. So the industry then worked with TAFEs and actually started putting in all the units that you know now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the start of them anyway. So by 2000, there was in the national training package all the solar units.
Yep.
And it was in 2000 when the association said 2002 is the cutover.
Yep.
After that, the association's not doing any more training. You've got to go through RTOs.
Yeah, okay.
That was to make sure there was enough RTOs gearing up to do it.
Yeah. And was the demand able to be met by the RTOs with that? Or was it a bit of a rocky road?
It was a bit of a rocky road.
Yeah.
It was, but bear in mind, it was something. The first lot of ever inspections was in 2004.
Yep.
And I managed...
From the CER? Or sorry, probably wasn't even that.
No, it was BCSE.
BCSE was doing it back then?
Yeah, so it was we used to have an office called the Australian Greenhouse Office.
Yeah.
So they were the ones administering these programs. And they actually funded BCSE for a lot of these industry development things.
Were they in Canberra and Melbourne? Was that...
BCSE was in Melbourne.
Melbourne, yeah. BCSE was Melbourne, yeah.
Yeah, so that was the third generation of the association.
Sorry, just for people who don't know,
Business Council of Sustainable Energy.
Yeah, so that's before the CEC.
Yep, so it's the Solar Energy Industry Association.
Yep.
And as said, I would say before, in 90, at Diatra, everyone said, it's probably time we have a formal association.
Yeah.
And that's when we found SEER, and basically there were 6 people running it down here in Melbourne. One of them was Solar Pool Eden.
Yep.
John Cooper and not John Cooper, Bob Cooper.
Yep.
Bob Cooper. And we just rebuilt that and we had state-based associations. So I was president of New South Wales for 10 years.
Yep.
And there was, I don't remember who was down here, and Geoff Hoy up in Queensland, and different ones in different states.
Yep.
And so that's the association grew that way, and that's when we started pushing for standards, as we said before. And then also the training got pushed late in the 2000s. So it went from the solar industry, we merged with a sustainable group to be the Sustainable Energy Industry Association.
Yeah, yep.
And I think it was Eco Generation. Rick Bizarrely would kill me if I probably got it wrong. But he was the head of that when it then became the BCSE.
Yeah, okay.
And then there was a merger with the Wind Association and somebody else in Tasmania.
Yeah.
That became the Clean Energy Council.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. So we're talking around 2007 now. So the Business Council merged with the Wind Association, was it?
Association and there was something else in Tasmania. I can't remember what that was, but yeah.
Okay, and that was and then that formed what we known as the CEC, which ran the accreditation program for 15 years or what?
Yeah, well, that's right.
Yeah,
It started with original SED and the sustainable, just kept on being handed on to each association.
Yeah. So how did it become that people doing grid connect, well, not just grid connect, doing off grid, they're solar people, mixed in with wind, and then that became the one association? Is it? I mean, I can sort of see what the benefits might be. Was the idea because then strength in numbers? Is that what the idea was?
So, from my memory, it was a bit of a push by the federal government that you had the wind association. Because remember, with the renewable energy certificates, there was a lot of lobbying about the renewable energy target.
Yeah.
Whether it should exist, will it be run out, and that.
Yep.
So you had the Wind Association saying their thing, you had the Solar Association saying theirs, and the government said, you should all be talking with the one voice.
Okay.
Which is a bit of a con trick, I think, with hindsight. But
which government was that? Was that the Rudd government? Was that the Howard government?
No, that would have been the Howard government.
The Howard government
days, yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so that's how, which sort of led to that merger.
Yeah, right. And what do you reckon, looking back, what are we, 16 and a half years, whatever, into the future, what do you reckon of that merger back at the time now? Like, what lessons do you reckon, if we were to do something like that again, what lessons would you say we've learnt?
Look, and this is sort of, probably you can say other people might disagree, but this is my personal perspective.
Yep.
Right, because we used to have what was called a standards training accreditation committee.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was the body, that was the committee that looked after the orders for the association, and we're just a volunteer committee. And we'd set up complaints procedures.
Yep.
And all this because we knew we're handing over an accreditation, like a license. You've got to be able to have the ability to take it off them if they're doing the wrong thing.
Yep.
Yeah. And you must have procedures for people who wouldn't complain. And when it got taken over by the Wind Association, and at the time of the growth, it had been ring-fenced.
Yep.
So the fees used to be $440 a year.
Yep.
Yeah, it'd been ring-fenced with Rick Brazali that it was covering its own costs.
Yep.
With the smaller numbers. And then suddenly the windfall happened and no extra staff was put on.
Yep.
We were told not to deal with complaints.
Yep.
So, in my view, and it's got nothing to do with the current staff of CEC or the original.
It's a long time ago. There might only be one person, two people left, maybe. Maybe not even anymore.
No, Kane was there.
Oh, Kane was there, wasn't he?
Just at the end of BCSC.
You can't blame Kane for everything, no.
No, it had nothing to do with Kane.
He cops the brunt for a lot of things.
Nothing at all.
No.
It was the first two managers.
Yeah.
That did.
Sure.
That said, cut it all back and did the damage to the industry, in my view, in the long run.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I feel like there were a lot of lessons learnt around from that time. And I know there's still some people in the industry that are still quite bitter about what happened back in that time.
Yeah.
And it was before my time, and I've spoken to some people, and I didn't really understand it.
Yeah, look. So the problem was you had only about one or maybe two people trying to service the whole accreditation program.
Yep.
They didn't put on extra staff.
Yep.
Until basically ORO would have been in those days, the renewable energy regulator made them, and then they had to review the price, and then it dropped from $440 to $110 a year.
I do remember that.
So
that huge drop.
Really, the fact that the people were paying their money, there was no support for it for a couple of years. Yeah, there were still things being done by the small committee, but it was just frustrating that you could see things happening. We tried to bring in how to police their systems being designed correctly or sold correctly, and that wasn't allowed.
Yep.
And we all know that became a nightmare with people overselling on the phones and things like that.
Yeah.
Like, I think we had the record for 2 or 3 years in a row of having the most complaints to the telecommunication ombudsman.
Is that right?
We beat the telecom companies for a few
beat them at their own game.
Yes. People whinging about being rung up and being pushed solar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was
not much has changed, really. I mean, it is better now. There's things in place now.
Yeah. So it was a bit frustrating that we put all these things in place in the past.
Yeah.
Sort of went through this period of time when those things were sort of could have helped
Yeah. Do you reckon we'd be in a better place now if we'd have got some of those things right? Or do you reckon, you do?
Look, I think we're in a good place now.
Yeah.
I think, I think, it was just those few years of frustration.
Yeah.
And still lags on to a few things. But I think, look how much the industry's booming. And,
Yeah.
like, I never would have thought it was going to be under $1 in my lifetime.
Yeah.
That was never on the radar.
Remember, I've heard you speak about this in conversations we've had. So do you remember how much solar was?
Well,
when you first, can you go back to the 80s? What do you reckon a system was?
I think it was around $15, $20 a watt.
$15-$20 a watt.
I know when I was starting, I think the 45-watt module was $500.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then quickly went up to 75 and 80, which was pretty well the standard module through the 90s was 75 or 80 watts.
Yeah.
And that was pretty well $750 retail.
So basically $10 a watt.
Yeah.
It's pretty standard, $10 a watt.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're paying now, but I know it's not $10 a watt. I don't know, what is it now? About 30 cents or something? I don't even know. I'm not sure. It's probably less.
I'm not touch of that.
Yeah. Every time I hear a number, it's always someone else says something less, and I'm just like, wow, it's really cheap. It's really cheap now. Like it seems like if you wanted to clad your house in solar panels, it's cheaper than using some sort of other material.
Like in the late 80s, when I was working at BP Solar,
yep.
One of the products we were just selling was literally inverter charger batteries.
Yep.
Because to the farmers who are running their generators 24 hours a day, suddenly then only running the generator 8 hours a day,
yep,
paid for itself in a couple of years. Right? So that was one of the markets we were just working in the late 80s that didn't have solar involved. So we always viewed ourselves as just power specialists, not just necessarily solar, that will how to solve particularly people in the remote who didn't have connection to the grid.
Yeah, you're just looking for a solution, and sometimes solar was that solution.
Yeah, that's right. Because solar was expensive, but if they had big loads, then running the generator 6 or 8 hours a day was the cheapest option for them. And charging batteries up. I think so. People had demand-start generators. Up at night and turn on a 100-watt light, the generator would start.
Yeah, right.
So,
interesting. Well, it's almost like we've gone full circle on that now too, because there's a lot of companies now are seeing themselves not necessarily as solar companies. They're seeing themselves as doing the whole full electrification, which is part of the solution now, I think.
Yeah. Oh, look, definitely with the off-grid was you had to sit down there and look at energy efficiency. So particularly when I left BP and started my own company in 89.
Yep.
That was just when compact fluorescents were starting to hit the market.
89? Yeah, right.
And they were $35 each. But
really?
15-watt incandescent compared to a 100-watt incandescent light bulb was a couple of $1,000s in solar modules.
Yeah, right.
So, I would talk energy efficiency in dollars.
Yeah.
Right, and say, can we run our toaster? And then go, yeah, you can, but if you want to spend $3,500 worth of modules to run it, so changing them to gas and all that was what we were doing in those days. If they were running so you had to, so always our biggest challenge, particularly with, not the biggest, one of the challenges was, since they were modified square wave inverters.
Yep.
Even though some companies market them as modified sine waves, which I didn't know why you'd want to modify a sine wave. Anyway. Not all appliances would work off them.
Yeah, right.
Right. So that, so the industry through ATRA, people say, this washing machine works really well with this inverter. So there was a lot of communication like that, because you could put a product on that wouldn't work with the inverter. Have headaches with it.
Yeah, okay.
Sine waves came out.
Sort of bit smoother.
94, yeah. Yeah, but those, modified square wave days, we had to be experts on what appliances would work with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What were the real surge of those motors? Because, you needed the batteries and the inverter size to start the motors.
Did you blow much stuff up? Like, stuff wouldn't work, but did you blow anything up?
Probably did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but look, credit where credit's due, Celltronics was, and Lotronics were the two good inverter, and there was AES in WA, and there was Dale Butler, which became the product that Celltronics got now. But, the better installers, we'd have spare inverters.
Yep.
just for, so if somebody's inverter blew up, we could go there, put them back on power, send it away, get it fixed and swap it over. So Bioregister, remember with Celltronics, came out with the model where it was just 2 boards. Gave us all 2 boards, and you had to go just swap a board over unless it was the transformer and then but so it was those maintenance things in those early days but we'd put DC lights in.
Oh, right.
So therefore if the inverter failed,
you've got something.
Yeah. Always had DC lights in the battery room. Coming straight off the battery with its own little circuit breaker.
Yeah, okay.
Because if you got caught out at night and the inverter wasn't working, they would give you your lights.
As long as you got your batteries, you got light. Yeah. Very good. All right, Geoff, we're going to go to our first break. That's been a really good start. I want to, once we come back from the break, I want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you've been doing overseas. I'm quite interested in that. And also want to have a little bit of a discussion about GSES and how that all started. Really interesting, I reckon. All right, so we'll have a chat about that. And I dropped the ball and didn't bring the biscuits, and you've decided to come in with some mint slice. So we might have a couple of them. So, all right, we'll talk about that when we get back, and we'll be back in just a few moments.
Hey, solar installers. Struggling to keep up with CPD requirements? At Southwell Solar Training, we're here to make it simple. Our online courses are designed to give you the knowledge you need without the sales pitch. With an affordable subscription, you'll unlock access to our growing library of technical courses, covering everything from inspecting older systems to spotting installation defects. Learn at your own pace, earn CPD points, and stay ahead in the industry. Join us today and start learning smarter, not harder. Visit www.southwellsolartraining.com.au and get your CPD the easy and affordable way.
Okay, and we're back. All right, Geoff, that was good having a little mint slice.
No problems.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. I might have to put that one on the menu for when we do future podcasts. It's usually the Tim Tams. Someone got stuck with the teddy bear biscuits, but yeah, the mint slices are bad actually.
As I said, I went into Woolies and there's a Tim Tam in sight.
Yeah, he did mention that. They could striking or something at the moment. Or a few people I play cricket with have been mentioning there's nothing in Woolies at the moment.
Yeah, it's just fairly bare when I was down there this morning.
Yeah. So everyone's having to shop at Coles at the moment. Anyway, or IGA. Definitely go to IGA. Just pay a little bit more, but you get the convenience there.
We used to have an IGA, but got wiped out.
Yeah, right. Okay. Fair enough. All right. I want to ask you a little bit about. Let's first. I think a couple of these topics will sort of intertwine together.
Yep.
Let's ask you a little bit first about some of the stuff you're doing overseas. So I've been running into you at industry conferences, at least for the last sort of 5 years or so, having a good chat since I've got to know you a bit better, and sent emails to you, giving you a call every now and then. You're either in East Africa or you're somewhere in the Pacific, or I think you're in the UK last time. So what's this interest you've got with overseas solar, or how come you're always traveling? I think people would be interested to know.
Look, so when I had my own company, Southern Solar.
Yep.
In about mid-90s, I actually started working with a utility who, because they were managing these RAPIS grants we used to have.
Yep.
And so they could see the potential.
RAPIS grants. Sorry, just what are those?
Sorry, Remote Area Power Assistance Scheme in New South Wales. So people could get funding for
it. So that was like where they paid half the money or whatever to get power on your property.
And they were actually managed by the distributor.
Yep.
Right, because they were still government owned. And so this one distributed electricity at the time. So, well, why aren't we supplying the solar systems, offering grid extensions, all that? So I was then involved with them. We got to do a study tour of the US in 95.
Yep.
So there were a number of utilities doing that already, Idaho Power and people like that were doing it in the States. That got us to join the a utility association over there. And I started attending the conference there each year, which was the SEER conference and that combined.
Yep.
So it was quite interesting because already that conference was 1,000 to 1,200 people.
Mm.
We were only 100 to 150 in Australia at a conference.
Yeah, right.
At the time.
So that's like almost a proper conference kind of thing. That's decent.
And I always had an interest in developing countries.
Yep.
I did subjects at uni.
Yeah, okay.
And I remember also jokingly saying when I left uni in 91, 81, what are you going to do when you grow up? Oh, solar in the Pacific.
Yeah.
Because I was surfing in the Pacific.
Right.
To Tonga and Samoa surfing in those days. So
there's good waves there, is there?
There was. They're all gone now. Yeah. So we used to do a lot of exploring.
Yep.
In those days. And the US government used to bring 20 or 30 developing country people, we used to call them. I'm always losing track of what's the politically correct term for these countries now.
Yep.
Emerging economies, I think.
Emerging, okay, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, so I got to talk to them, and I could see there was a potential to actually work with small solar companies in those countries.
Yep.
And, we all talked to Solar Coaster.
Yep.
We had it back then, the grant would start. And so I proposed to 3 other people from the industry, Sue Neal, Sydney, Steve Garrett down at Pambler, Kim Atkinson in South Australia. We should form a company to just look at doing projects overseas.
Yep.
And I basically let my company go and just focused on that. But so that was 98 we formed it.
Yep.
99 I was doing trips to Sri Lanka. Indirectly had met somebody.
Yep.
We were helping that company along, and it was literally over drinks that I was mentioning what we'd done in Australia with accreditation, training, standards.
At a conference, was it? Was that just a dinner?
Yeah, I was helping their company grow.
Yeah, okay.
Business plans for them.
And
that. And he already had 20 staff.
Yeah.
See, the difference in those countries in those days was they were just in the little 40-watt solar home systems.
Yeah.
And they'd have more staff just to install, a couple hundred systems a month in the countries and that type of thing. So it was a different market altogether.
Yep.
And it was just having dinner with him when I mentioned this, and he said, "Why don't you do that?" So next thing I knew, I was doing training for the World Bank for them. Yeah. And GSES then grew into a capacity building company and working with all the donors.
Yeah, right.
So I helped set up a training centre in Ghana in 2003. So I just decided I didn't want a company that could rely on the Australian government affecting my business day to day.
So that was the start of GSES? That
was the start of GSES.
So that was my other question about GSES. Like, you started that based on, I suppose, the Solar Coaster. And you're just trying to protect yourself.
By having working overseas.
Yeah.
And then it was only me for the next 10 years. The others would come in on projects when I'd won a project and I needed help.
Yep.
And then so I was doing a lot of work with the BCSC as well. So all these, helping the right guidelines.
Yeah.
Funding from that. So I did a lot of consulting to the BCSC at the same time.
Yep.
Like ran the first inspection project for them.
Yep.
Helped set up the first professional development days.
Yeah, right.
BCSC on standards back in 2002.
What was that? What did they look like back then? Yeah. Like, do you look back on those days now?
477 had just come out and 4509.
No, but what about those professional development days that you had? What were they like? Were they?
Yeah, they were very engaging.
Yeah,
because we took them to the field. I remember running them in Tamworth, and that people go, we wouldn't drive down to Sydney; it's too expensive. You've come to us, and some of them drove 8 hours to be there that day.
Yeah, right.
Right. So yes, they fully appreciated it.
Mm.
So we made sure in every state they weren't. Yeah, you'd have them in the capital city, but the off-grid market industry was not in the cities.
Sure.
It was
that's the thing, isn't it? Because it wasn't really a grid connect thing.
Yeah.
So you're pretty much rural. A lot of people are installing rural.
And like I think, somebody like Rick Rosali might have the figures buried away, but I think even in the first 4 years of the PVRP, I think it was only 4,000 off grid connected systems total went in 4 years.
Yeah,
it's still a lot of off-grid going as the dominant part of the market. Yeah, there was only 200 accredited installers.
Yeah.
At first inspections were done in 2004. So I was doing the overseas work and that work. Yeah, we weren't not a training company.
Yep.
Yeah, in my role with BCSC, had been trying to lobby TAFEs in New South Wales, where I'm from, to set it up. But I was overseas helping set up training centres. Yeah. And literally, I came back from Malaysia and copped a lot of abuse because I was the head of the committee, SDA. We've got to go in the state to get trained, Geoff. And I literally turned around and said, what does it take to become an RTO? And 12 months and a lot of swearing later, I must admit. And that's when we hired our first staff person.
Yeah.
To help us set up the training. Then we just kept on growing from that.
So it was before, so you didn't get any staff until you became the RTO?
Yep. To 2008.
Anyone help you set up as an RTO? Because it's a big task. Did you get some help?
The person I employed. And,
okay.
And she was then working with one of the people who became one of our future trainers.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah. And, so that, and then, but I didn't, as a small business, wages are always what you worry about.
Yep.
So I made sure I have enough projects to cover somebody's wages for 12 months before I hired anyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Grew it that way over the next few years. And then Sue Neal, one of the other partners, directors.
Yep.
She had sold her business. She became Conergy, her business. And then she left that. And,
where are we talking now? 2010, around then?
2010.
Yeah.
In 2009, 10.
Yeah. That's when Conergy were pretty big around then.
Yeah. So they bought her business. She had to stay to 2 years.
Yep.
And then wanted out. And then, so I can make the comment that the first 3 staff were females.
Yeah, right.
So it was just me and 3 female staff working in Sydney, and I was working from home in South Coast, like Barry on the South Coast.
Yeah.
And then they all worked from home at first, and we moved them together. And then,
how'd they work from home back then? That would have been interesting.
Yeah. And then Sue said, "No, we need to be in an office."
Yeah.
That's an overhead.
That's right.
Yeah. But we grew. And then I was involved with the climate change, helping them to set up inspections.
Yep.
And they then asked GSES and a couple other firms to be the first inspectors. So the RTO was the first part of the business growing, where we put staff on.
Yep.
Then inspections was the next part.
Yep.
And a lot of our staff, I lectured at uni part-time for 14 years.
Yep.
I was asked to set up the course there so the engineers coming out of the solar course,
Yep.
Could actually get their design accreditation. So I was running the same course that CE used to run at the uni.
Okay, yep.
And everyone would keep on applying for work for me. We want to work overseas with you, Geoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of our staff were engineers out of deep, and that's how it didn't do. And then we wanted to have, I used to tell them, this is a good stepping stone, but straight out of uni, you should be out doing design work. Spend a few years with us and you'll learn the standards more and how to design systems better with inspections and see what does go wrong. And that didn't move on, but then we formed a design team.
Okay.
Try to keep those who didn't want to stay. So there's sort of 3 divisions, and I just still run the exports. So so we've set up GSES India. That's been going since 2012.
Yeah, right.
So we've got a business running over there. I've stopped going to Africa. I was doing a lot there before COVID.
I remember hearing a lot you were going to Africa a lot.
Did a lot of work in Africa and Uganda.
Yeah.
And it was all based around, helping, say, for instance, one of the last projects there was literally training the Bureau of Standards how to check test certificates.
Yep.
Because they were getting a lot of rubbish product in and things like that.
We've been through that, haven't we? Yeah.
And then, and things like that. Or West Africa, one of the technician scheme.
Yep.
And we helped that. But the Pacific, I've been working there for 20 odd years.
Where mainly? What are the main places in the Pacific? Because it's a big place.
Well, basically all of them now.
Yeah, right.
Because I was running training for the World Bank in Fiji in North Grid Systems for one of their programs.
Yep.
2009. And a couple of the industry players came up to us while I was there and said, well, why don't you help us do in the Pacific what you have all done in Australia with standards, accreditation? And so therefore I got funding and I went around to talk to people in other countries to make sure. So that's when we formed the Industry Association there in 2010.
Yep.
So it's based in Fiji. And then we actually launched an accreditation program with their president in 2012.
Yep.
We wrote guidelines, basically took the Australian ones and just converted them.
Yep.
Wrote some training units and so we were just trying to repeat what had worked in Australia. But the barrier was, the difficulty was, we're trying to do it in 20 countries and not just one.
Yeah.
And it's a very small market. Like you're talking, take Papua New Guinea out of the mix. you're talking 3 million people spread over 19 countries
That's,
in an area where the whole world's landmass can fit into. Whole world's landmass can fit into the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
Right. So there's, so you got all O&M problems and all that. So it's been, so GSES, like, there's, you got all the companies that do a lot of funding of, nights, party nights and all that.
Yep.
Yeah, GSES hasn't really done much of that. But what I am proud of is that we've been the philanthropic body supporting SIAPI for the last 14, 15 years. The association just doesn't have the money to pay wages.
Yep.
So GSES has funded me to do stuff on, fly to meetings and all that. So that's our little quiet contribution we've been doing over the years.
Yep.
And
it's a big contribution.
Yeah.
Don't have to do it.
I believe in it.
Yeah, no, that's good. No, that's good. You are. It's good you are. Because that's.
It took us 6 years. We wrote a business plan to do workshops, guidelines. And
Yep.
all that. Took me 6 years to sell it. We got the money, had to win it in a tender, international tender. And from 18 to 20, we did, wrote 16 guidelines, did 19 training units, getting them into the framework in the Pacific. And we ran 34 4-day workshops in 14 countries over 2 years, and had 650 people attend those. And we're getting a roll on for pushing quality. COVID just stopped it. Yeah, it was dead. So all the work we'd built up to.
So you had a fair bit of momentum by the sound of it.
We did. And then COVID just closed those countries down for a couple of years, some of them.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Tuvalu. The record I know of is the head of the power company, Tuvalu, 2.5 years out of the country.
Yeah,
He didn't get back home to July 22.
Really?
Yeah. He was in New Zealand all 20, got to Fiji at the end of 20, and it was still 18 months before his own government would allow him to come back.
Just because he was out at wrong place, wrong time sort of thing.
Back when all the borders closed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was running the power company from the other islands.
Wow.
Yeah. So we have a very close relationship with the Pacific Power Association.
Yep.
Sandip, who works for us, we hired in 2018. He works out of there. So that's the association of the 22 power utilities.
Yep.
So we do. So it is 18, 19 countries. But our focus mainly at the moment is Papua New Guinea, Solomons, Vanuatu, Fiji, Tonga. In saying I am doing work in Marshalls and Micronesia for the World Bank. Yep. And all other countries every now and then when they ask us, could we come over and do something? Yeah. So we've got private. One of the barriers has been lack of training. And so we've been pushing that for years. So we've actually got funding, and we've actually tender closed the other week. And by this time next year, we'll have the new regional training centre set up in Fiji.
Yeah, right.
And I'm working with training centres in Vanuatu, Tonga, Solomon.
Set up similar things?
Well, the Fiji one will be the main support one. Yeah. And then the other ones will run face-to-face training. Yeah. So that's our big focus at the moment. So I stepped down as managing director of GSES 2 years ago just to focus on, since we lost the momentum during COVID, I thought I need to rebuild the momentum.
Get this back.
Yeah. Chris Martel runs GSES well. Yep. Yeah, we hired him in 2014, and that was the long-term plan. And we were looking for somebody who, Sue Neal was running the office. She was retiring, so we always had the plan of, we always had a plan of how to move forward. So,
Well, it's interesting. They've got so each one of those, I think you met 19 countries you mentioned, was it? Yeah. So they all have their own unique challenges. Yeah. Which is, I can't imagine. Like, I mean, we whinge about having, 7 or 8 whatever states in Australia. Yeah. You got all these in this one region. You've only got 3 million people over these 19 places and then they're all fragmented as well, aren't they? You got islands which
That's right. You've got islands where a boat want to go to every 6 months.
Yeah, right.
So if you go put a system on that island.
Yeah.
So you've got a problem with their system, it'll be 6 months later before you can get back there, unless you have your own yacht to sail there.
Yeah, right.
Which there are a few people in the Pacific now with yachts.
Yeah.
And I was in Vanuatu 2 weeks ago talking to one of the industry guys there. And see, this is one of the good thing about the grid connected is how it's reduced the price. So it's been brilliant for the off-grid market in these countries. The problem is, how do you get these big modules on a canoe up the river? Right. Delivery of these products some islands don't have wharves. You got to carry the modules across the reef.
Jeez, I never even thought of those sort of issues.
So I'm afraid bring back the 75
watts
under your arms. Make so this guy said, I've just bought my own yacht so I can transfer the equipment around easier now. It's,
perfect.
Yeah. So he said...
But you can see why a lot of them might go, well, I'm just going to stay on diesel.
Yeah.
It makes...
Yeah, but diesel's so expensive.
Diesel is expensive,
What has been good, because kerosene lights used to be the main lighting thing.
Yep.
It's been really good to see there. Over the last 10 years, that's gone.
Yep.
There's a lot of the little solar kits.
Yep.
Which I still I love working in that part of the market. Like when I was working in Uganda, think this through. They were selling 40-watt systems, 20,000 a month.
Yeah, right.
Work out how many people that employs.
Yeah, it would be a few.
That's right. So in those countries, the amount of jobs created
stimulating
by 1 megawatt of solar is more than 1 megawatt of solar creates jobs here. Yeah. So that side of it's quite interesting. And they all have these plug-and-play systems now.
Yep, yeah.
And there's standards for them. They tie up with phone companies. If you don't pay your monthly fee, they just turn the system off on you.
Yeah, okay.
And all that. So, it's a completely different world to the grid. So that's why I find that part of it fascinating.
What do you find are the challenges with the installations? And so is it the lack of training so it'd be the willingness of the people to learn these systems would be quite high, I'm thinking, but they don't have the trainers and the systems in place.
Yeah. Like the companies that have been well established in the Pacific, they've had some very good technicians. We've trained them over the years, and they've trained their people in the job. It'd be wonderful in the whole industry if you had an apprenticeship program from day one, because we all know you learn by working with other people.
Yeah, that's right.
Training's only one part of it. And that's part of the challenge. If a new company gets going, it hasn't got experienced technicians.
Yep.
Where they've got to learn off, be shown by somebody first and then hopefully build up those skills. So that's the challenge. And the challenge is the O&M. If there is a problem, the cost to get out to some of these islands by local transport could be worth more than the system was worth. So that's why the plug-and-play systems are quite useful in that small end. But they're the challenges, and that's every country had its own challenge in that context.
Is it when they're learning how to do these systems? Is it because you've got that sort of plug-and-play thing?
Yeah.
Does it mean that it's a challenge to get them to learn breakdowns and the maintenance and that sort of stuff?
The plug-and-plays are actually self-installed.
Yep.
The industry itself has the installers who go and put the 4 or 5 modules on the roof and the batteries and all that. So they are doing exactly the here and it. So it's just the challenge has been trying to not have GSES do it or training all the time. Try to get it built up. So that's why we're identifying trainers and building that capacity up in the Pacific. And then O&M.
Yep.
Yeah. And so there has been a lot of grid-connected solar go in now.
Yep.
Some of the utilities are very advanced. So there's O&M there. There's storage going in.
Yep.
So the same type of training for the grid market here is needed there. So that's why we work closely with the Pacific Power Association.
Is that hard to identify the trainers, like you mentioned? Some of these areas like where the education is not at a level where it is in Australia, is that some of the challenges you have?
It is a challenge, like say Vanuatu doesn't have electricians.
Yeah, right.
So
where do you start? If you don't have electricians, you've got no...
There's a guy there now running 6-month electrical courses.
Yep.
So that's the start. And look, what you say is correct. Like I remember working up in New Guinea years ago and people say, well, what's your prerequisite? I said, they're working in the industry.
Yep.
My job is just to try to improve what they're doing.
Yeah.
I can't look at our... that's it. That's right. The person's going to be back doing the job the next day. Yeah. Where our job is trying to make sure they're doing it better than they were doing it the day before. Yeah. And then giving them that support. So there's often I'll get emails from people say, Geoff, is this the way I should be doing it? And that's what I enjoy.
Yeah.
Is that side of it.
It's totally different, isn't it? It's just totally different.
So the funniest thing is always people ask me overseas, what's happening in Australia? And go, I don't know. I've got to go talk to Chris or that sometimes. So no. To the nth degree. My main involvement here is still, I'm involved with 4509 at the moment. For 10 years. I've been pushing, Michelle Taylor up.
In Queensland.
We pushed for that for many years to get that standard up. And I think then I'll retire from standards after 31 years or 32 years, whatever it is. Yeah, so it's been. But yeah, no, it is just such a different market. And there's a number of companies from Australia now have operations in Fiji.
I've seen a little bit of that on social media.
Yep. There's a few of them.
Yeah. Are they doing all right?
Yeah,
Are they making money for it, or is it more of a?
you'd have to ask them.
Yeah.
I'm sort of just more. Yeah, there's probably about 20 solar businesses in Fiji.
Okay, that's decent.
There's
How many people in Fiji? How many people?
About 9 or 10 in Vanuatu.
How many people in Fiji live there?
Oh,
that's all right. I'll ask.
a couple 100,000.
Couple 100,000. Okay, that's not bad. 20 solar companies, not bad.
Yeah. And then New Guinea's the big one.
Yep.
Yeah, big black hole because it's 10, 12 million people. Or could be even higher, some people say.
Yeah.
And it's only 15% electrified.
Yeah.
Right? So, but there's just so many more challenges up there. Yeah, you might walk 3 days into the village. There's no road or things like that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so
crime rate's pretty high in some areas, isn't it?
Some areas, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not as bad as it used to be.
Yeah. Oh, you just hear stories. I've never been there, so I don't know.
Yeah. Like you still got to be careful in Port Moresby.
Port Moresby, I've heard.
I feel a lot more safer there than, say, 20 years ago when it was first going.
Yep.
But they have their own industry association up there.
Yeah, okay.
And we work closely with them. Yeah, because, the ironic thing is I was asked by the World Bank in 2006 or 7 to set up an association in New Guinea.
Yep.
So I wrote all the articles and all that and turned around and said, nobody wants it.
Yeah.
We stopped the project, which, couldn't see the point. And 10 years later, people found that and used that to form the new association.
Oh, really? Is that right?
I said, you're that Geoff Stapleton. So I work with them up there closely. Yeah, so that's, there's a lot of money going in. So there's a lot of Australian donor money going into Pacific now. There's just been a new Renew Pacific project, 75 million.
Yep.
Like we all knew about it, but it was announced bigger at COP last week.
Yeah, okay.
And same with climate change, $50 million to support the transition with the grid.
Does that go very far? So those two figures, you got a lot of transport costs and a lot of remote costs.
It all depends how they like you've got New Zealand's, but like in the last 15 years, I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't close to $1.5 billion worth of solar's gone into the Pacific in different
$1.5 billion, really.
And all the time I've been yelling, "Where's the training? Where's the training?" Yeah, because nobody seemed to want to fund training. They all wanted to fund. I'm cynical in my older age. Give them something they can cut a ribbon around and they'll fund it. Give them something that's not as easy to see.
Yeah.
So I sort of am known as a bit more of a cynic and critic throughout the Pacific. But 66 next month, so I think it's time to start saying what you think sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Fair enough. All right, Geoff, we're going to go to our final break. Yeah. This is a really good chat. When we come back, I want to ask you a little bit about the solar industry now and the future. I'm interested in what your thoughts are on that, and where you think we're going in things like CPD training, other training in the future, and like you've sort of been through the whole journey, and I'm just interested in to see what you think our future is, because we've got a pretty good future. So when we come back from the break, I'll ask you about that. All right, so we'll be having a chat about that coming up.
Yep.
Hey solar installers, struggling to keep up with CPD requirements? At Southwell Solar Training, we're here to make it simple. Our online courses are designed to give you the knowledge you need without the sales pitch. With an affordable subscription, you'll unlock access to our growing library of technical courses, covering everything from inspecting older systems to spotting installation defects. Learn at your own pace, earn CPD points, and stay ahead in the industry. Join us today and start learning smarter, not harder. Visit www.southwellsolartraining.com.au and get your CPD the easy and affordable way.
Okay, and we're back for the last part of the show. Been a great episode so far, Geoff. History lessons and a lot of stuff that's happening, international relations, a lot of things that are going on. I want to get back to our local market again. You've been from the start. You've seen there's been such a growth in solar. I think a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was 4 millionth system got installed, something like that. Now, actually, I just wanted to mention that. I just wonder how many of those
actually still work.
Well, that's one part of it, right? And I don't want to talk the industry down because that's not what I'm trying to do. But how many of those have been replaced? Where are these stats work? Like because every second system I go to now to inspect, it's a system that's been replaced, and you can tell because the old labels are still there.
Yep.
So I wonder how many of them are replaced systems that are still. Do they still count or?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm interested to that.
It's the CER that you need.
Yeah, I will. I'll ask that because we talk about 4 million systems, and that's great. But does that mean 4 million systems over that 15, 20-year period, whatever it is? Yeah. Or is it?
I think to assess all that data would be difficult, but it would probably be there because it'd be
probably would be
how many houses themselves.
Yeah, I suppose so.
That's probably what. Yeah.
But I doubt there'd be 4 million systems online at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, look, anyway. That's just semantics, I suppose. It doesn't matter. But so we've seen this huge rush. We've seen huge booms as well. The boom of, the ones you were talking about in the early 2000s, and then where, 09 with the AGO rebate and then the feed-in tariffs in early last decade, and sort of towards the end of last decade, there was some huge commercial booms. It's been massive. We've had a massively growing industry, especially the rooftop. Do you reckon? So you mentioned we're in a pretty good place. You reckon in the industry from what you can see at the moment?
So yeah.
And
like what's it? Yeah, unfortunately, you still suffer the solar coaster of going up and down.
Yep.
Whether that's saying there's too many people in the industry and it's sorting itself out that way, and that type of thing is always difficult to say. But if they're going to keep trying to meet these massive targets in the future, it's always this talk, where would the people come from? And particularly with the solar farms or whatever you want to call them nowadays, or is it, the jobs needed for there? And that's why, I get organisations like Open Solar, their whole philanthropic bent is trying to make the software freely available to help work with them up in Asia.
Right.
So it's having to try to make sure if we don't have all these, if you don't start trying to replace in other countries, in neighbouring countries in Asia, there's a lot of people that's got to be trained.
Yeah. So this is
and where are the trainers going to come from?
I've heard you talk. I've heard you talk about this a lot. So you reckon that's one of the big challenges? It's one of the ones you can see from your end. We need trainers to be able to deliver this training to skill the people up.
Yeah.
And there's just not that many at the moment.
No, it's been good to see a lot more companies come into it over the last 10 or more years. We've had a number of them here on this with CAS and all that.
Like private RTOs.
Because unfortunately, if you've got your good ones like with David Tolliday and some of the TAFEs are really good.
Yep.
But that part of the industry has been butchered over the years. Not now. The TAFE industry suffered a lot over the years. Seems to have lost a lot of their trainers, not just for our industry, for a lot of the industries.
Yeah.
People just don't seem to want to get off the trades and be trainers anymore like it is. So I think that's always going to be a challenge for a lot of industries at the moment, is that training bent to a certain extent.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it used to be something that a lot of, a lot of the tradies, a lot of the teachers, I had like a trade school.
Yeah.
They would just be sort of getting towards the retirement age a little bit, wanting to get off the tools a bit, do teaching a few days a week.
Yep.
Do you think that's still a thing? Seems to be a...
We've struggled every time because our GSES's online training was when we started. Our only competitors were TAFEs.
Yep.
And at the time, the TAFEs would register people for that certificate 4 course.
Yep.
They do the units they needed and drop out, and it was free.
Yeah, okay.
Competition.
So that's
so I said let's have a different model being online, and that was the model back in the 90s by having the distance learning.
Yeah.
So the people doing the C course, because they were scattered all around the country.
Yep.
So I just said let's do the same model with people who work at their own pace.
Yep.
And that's sort of why we had that model in our place. But I've been talking to our staff that that was fine now, and maybe we've got to look at all different other models for our training.
Yep.
But what I was going to lead up to is, so a lot of our staff in the office are engineers, which I think we're probably one of the most overqualified tastes at the RTOs. But our practical ones are all people who work in the field still.
Yeah.
And they got their Cert 4s, and every now and then those people get to retirement age that we'll be using, and sometimes we do struggle finding people who are prepared to be trainers.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, so I don't know if other centres are having that problem.
Oh, I think from what I've heard,
Sydney, and wouldn't have thought we'd have been in Sydney, we'd have that problem. That'd be thought to be. We said if we just got an electrician and sent them out and got them trained up on solar, if they knew how to teach. Yeah, teach them on the solar side, but
yeah. I know. Speaking to like Stephen Kaz, for instance, spoken to them a little bit about this. They reckon that's one of their biggest challenges: finding good trainers, holding on to them, those sort of things. So that's I find that's going to certainly be a challenge moving forward. Hopefully, we can get our way around that. What do you reckon about like government intervention? Do you reckon they're at a good level at the moment in the industry? So they got their finger in it a fair bit. Like there's organisations, CER, Solar Vic, in Victoria, and then I suppose depending on what state you're in, depends on how there's other. That's right. They're all sort of at different levels. Do you reckon the government intervention's about right, or do we need more? Do we need less? What do you reckon? Hard to say.
Look, for me personally, it's hard for me to comment on.
Yeah,
I'm
you're not really in that side
like that each day. So
yeah.
So like. It's good to see, the battery ones. We saw with the solar, how much that came down with the manufacturing reductions and that, and hopefully that, because, it is, the storage issue is the thing to solve in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. As we probably see now, it's not hard to probably get enough solar to cover during the day.
Yeah.
But it's what's going to happen at night. Wind will help. Yeah. But it's that, look, I have this philosophy. Well, I think I actually saw many, many, many years ago, and that if you think about it, up to the industrial age, we were renewables.
Yeah.
How did Captain Cook get here?
Yeah.
Wind power.
Yeah, wind,
First fleet, wind power.
Yep.
And then the industrial age, brought its good things and bad things.
Yep.
But that's why we've all got all these modern con things with all the growth in industrial and then so on.
Yep.
That's all by fossil fuel age. This was shown in a presentation I probably saw 20 or more years ago.
Yep.
And then we'll get to a period where we, after 300 or 400 years of fossil fuels, we're back to a renewable age. So it's we've got to now work out how do we do that, keep the same lifestyle we've got, but do it with renewables. And there's enough solar energy.
Yeah.
And like there's enough studies showing more solar energy lands on the oil fields every day than the energy taken out each day.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's only in that. So so the energy's there.
Plenty of energy.
Work. So it's how to store it, and that's going to be, whether it's batteries, whether it's there are some solar thermal storage plants now back up and running in certain parts of the world. So they actually run 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they can store it as steam.
Yep.
But that's only in very, odd locations you can do that.
Yeah.
That's one.
Well, I know there's a lot of talk at the moment about, centralising or decentralising the grid, what we should do, what we shouldn't do. And I know, like, listening to a few other podcasts, they're talking about maybe, changing the rules for the gentailers and, the national grid and all those sort of things. And because, there's so much solar and batteries online, which is behind the meter now.
That's right.
And it's sort of changing the game for everyone.
Well, it's changing everywhere. Like you got the DNSPs or that who are now looking at taking people off the grid and putting off-grid systems on them.
Yep.
Because that's a cheaper asset. Just south of me, because we're in that area where we got attacked twice with those bushfires the other year.
Yep.
And so Borley Point, just south of us.
Yep.
That's one of the pilots microgrids.
Yep.
So they've actually put batteries into people's houses.
Yep.
Big battery bank.
So they're off the main grid, is that right?
2 feeders going in there.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yep.
And they lose those feeders with storms.
Yeah, sure.
Fires. So they're aiming that they'll be able to be a point that, except for the tourist season, if it's just the normal people living there, they could probably last a couple of days.
That's pretty good.
And so there's all this work being done. So I always make that comment when you get some people who go, the grid's here, we do that. It's only 100 it's not even 100 years old, but a lot of it was after the war where it was flying out. And look at the phones.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. If you say what's different today to 35 years ago, I don't have to carry 20-cent pieces and run to a telephone booth and ring my wife saying I've finished the work and I'm on my way home.
Yes,
that's what we used to have to do.
It's a good point. Hey, now you can go to the payphones and they're free. You don't even need 20 cents.
Yeah, then I got that brick. I wish I kept my original brick mobile phone.
Your old,
Yeah, see, so when you look at what's happened to the telecommunications, electricity and all that's going to change that dramatically. It's being smart about how it's how we're going to get to that future. I'll be well and truly gone.
Yeah. No, fair enough.
Yeah.
Have you heard much about the New South Wales rebate program with the batteries? You hearing much about that at the moment? Because I have. I've heard a fair bit about it.
Look, I really felt sorry for the industry when I heard it was announced in May. It's coming in November.
I know.
That was what I hated back in the 90s when those type of things would happen. It's just ridiculous.
I know. Well, I think...
But I've got to look it up because my system on my roof is 16 years old.
Yep.
I mean, I made the commentary that probably 2 or 3 phone calls I'm getting a day at the moment. People trying to sell me systems.
Yeah.
But it's time to have a look at, we don't have batteries at this stage.
Yep.
I've had that system since 2008. And previous system was 10 years before that.
Yep.
That little one. So, so it's all time. So, I need to have a good look
at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Well,
I'm just for my own benefit.
Yeah. I'm just speaking to a few of the installers and people who run solar and battery companies in New South Wales, just having a hard time processing paperwork and that sort of thing. It's like I thought we'd sort of learn a lot of these lessons, and we sort of it seems to be difficult for them. So my heart goes out to all you people in New South Wales who are dealing with this stuff, because it's quite hard. I mean, it was hard enough at the start when, like you mentioned, about how they announced something which, didn't start for 5-6 months, whatever it was. Quite difficult. The other one I wanted to mention, which is sort of happening at the moment, is the emergency backstop in Victoria. Yes. That's been... I'm speaking to some installers about that at the moment. Like, luckily as an inspector, I don't really have to worry about that too much. But it's been very, very painful for a lot of the installers. It's sort of, whenever there's a change, it seems to be, I don't know, like most of the pain seems to be felt by the installers, I feel like, in this industry. And I don't know, maybe that's just, I don't know, maybe it's just...
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's the end user.
Yeah, that's right.
And then it's the relationship between those two that suffer as a result of these things.
Yeah, look, I mean, I understand the reason for bringing in this emergency backstop mechanism, CSIP, I think it is. I'm not an expert on it. I know what it does and what it's about and why we're doing it. But it's just the way it's being implemented. I really hope the pain eases, because you can't just keep going on with these things being painful for too long.
So frustrations I do get is that schemes come in and that, as you said with the paperwork, it should be able to be streamlined nowadays. And, there's been enough things over the years for people to, benefit from, to make sure they learn from what happened in the past. But I think that's one thing we don't seem to learn from.
Yeah, I know, that's right. We don't seem to learn from the past. I don't know. It's frustrating for people who've been in the industry for a while.
Look, I see it overseas. Donor A's doing something. Donor B comes along and starts trying to do the same thing. Learn off each other, or then even donor B, 5 years later, will redo it because they got a new young person in and they never looked at what they did before. So I just remember one of the workshops I was at when I was on the IEA PVPS. They asked me to do a presentation on lessons learned. And that was 2010, and I just dug out the 98 lessons learned report. 2008 lessons learned. 8 of the lessons were still on there. I just turned around to the head of the donor company, Danita, and said, you just don't learn the lessons that you pay consultants to write. If you're making the same mistakes 10 years later, you don't do these things and don't learn from them. But I think everyone can see that happens in so many things still nowadays. It's a real frustration I have.
I think that's not just in industry, that's in life. A lot of people just don't learn these lessons a lot of the time.
Well, I did use the thing there what upset them more was when I said, look, if private industry worked that way, we'd be still driving the T model Ford.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
That's right. See, the industry does move on.
Yep.
Yeah, can make mistakes, moves on.
Yeah. I must say, like, I find myself, as getting older in this industry, been around for a little while now, I like to see myself as a pretty positive person, but I'm finding myself getting, like, frustrated and jaded, even though I hate that word jaded. People mention it about being jaded in the industry because you just get frustrated by these things. How do you stop yourself from being jaded? You've been here so much longer than me, and you seem to be really positive about stuff.
I always have.
Yeah.
I did have somebody say to me, because like with this training centre we're open next year.
Yep.
Myself and a Dr. Herb Wade wrote a document for the UN in 2005.
Yep.
Describing what was needed for the Pacific long term, and it was having a central centre thing in Fiji that could help the others. That report's been probably re-looked at, I don't know how many times, and they said I got tired of waiting on donors and went and found private foundation money. And so it'll be 20 years since I wrote the report when we finally open up that centre.
Yep.
So somebody did say to me, we're still working out whether you're persistent or stubborn. So I don't know. I've been called stubborn a few times, so it's probably was been that. But yeah, so yeah, I was just determined that that was what we identified was needed, and we're going to get it done. It just took us a lot longer.
Took you longer.
Yeah, no, I've always been positive.
Yeah.
Life's too short.
Exactly. Maybe we just need to see the lighter side of things every now and then.
Yeah. And that is important. Like, I think it's been really good to see a lot of the addressing of mental health.
Yep.
Because that was never, talked about in our days or things like that. And I think anyone who gets to my age knows people who've committed suicide over the years.
Yep.
Yeah, and all that. So it was I think that's a real good positive. So we've got to look at that. Women, I enjoy going to those WISE days, and it's good to see similar things starting to happen in the Pacific.
Really?
We've got a lot of pushes there at the moment to get more women into the energy in the Pacific. A lot of the projects.
Interesting.
So that is really good to see.
Doing what? Like just being part of the industry?
Yeah, there's
is it because
over there? There's
yeah, great.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we do have some cultural issues in some countries.
Yeah, for sure, you would.
But and that, and so no, I think there's always reasons to be positive about something. Like, and you said at the beginning about being the sound, and Martin Green would be one of the is because he's the research, and and I think University of New South Wales probably sometimes in the industry's got enough credit. It is them that unfortunately it was in China, but it was Stuart Wenham and people like that who developed the techniques for making modules cheaper. So a lot of that has come out of Australia. Unfortunately, it's factories over there. And I asked last time I sort of sat and had dinner with Martin the same thing, because he's 76. And I said to him, when are you going to retire? And he just said, when what the students are researching for me, I'm not interested in anymore.
Yeah, okay.
Right? So he's still going.
So that's going to be never, because it sounds like he's always going to be interested in it. He's going to take that to the grave.
Yeah. I'll ask him again tomorrow night.
Yeah, ask him again.
Or maybe ask his wife. She might have a different answer, Judy. But I mean, I think it is just being positive. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with that. I think we do the mental health thing pretty well in our industry.
I think it's really good. Yeah.
Try and look after each other. I've even just, like, I was being part of this Carrum Cricket Club here. We're about to have a mental health and wellbeing officer, I think, or something like that. There's a program about to start for all the people at the cricket club, and we can all get together, discuss our mental health, become more self-aware about what we're thinking, look at our triggers, all that sort of stuff. And this is just a local sporting club.
Yeah.
And it's been identified as something that, the community has decided that we need. So I think as a society, we're all sort of warming up to this. That's right. We're talking about getting the kids more involved, getting them to be more self-aware as well. So then when they can bring into their adult years, it's not so much of a foreign concept to them as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good thing. Make everyone happier. That's what we want.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right, good stuff. All right, Geoff. Well, I think we're going to wrap things up in a sec. It's been great having you in Carrum. Really appreciate you making the journey down here.
No, my pleasure.
It's been really good. You got any closing words? I don't know. If I give you the opening for that, you could probably talk for another half an hour. I reckon.
No,
You got any closing comments you've got about the industry or just being around here or anything like that?
no. Look, I've heard it said many times before. It has been a good fun industry to be involved with.
Yep.
Over the years, the people are what make it.
Yep.
Getting together. I basically only go to All Energy each year. I should be having a look more at the stands, but I'm just finding the people to talk to because it's a couple of events a year where you get to catch up with people.
For sure. How'd you find it this year? I just wanted to mention that. Like, how did you find All Energy this year?
Well, there was people I wanted to see and I never found them. I never saw them in the 2 days. I knew they were there. It's just getting, to some extent, it's getting too big.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I wanted to mention that because I gave a bit of feedback actually to the Reed exhibition, saying I feel like it's too much for 2 days at the moment. I feel like it should be a third or even a fourth day. I don't know. It's just so much to cram in. To be honest, myself and Joe this year, we feel like we didn't really get out of All Energy what we set out to do this year, and that's because we were so exhausted in the lead up to it, trying to get everything done. By the time it sort of came around, we were so mentally spent, and then trying to get everything done in that 2 days, it's just a toll.
It's something I just sort of thought of just then. One of the things people still want to do is sometimes get to the talks. So why can't the talks start the day before?
Yeah, I agree.
Because I know the exhibition people get tired after 2 days.
Yep.
So 2 days but if you have some of the talk, because if I remember, I haven't been to Inner Solar for a few years.
Yep.
But I'm positive their actual conference thing started before the exhibition opened.
Yep.
Yeah.
It makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. So you can do the talks, and then you can still have some talks on the one day, but maybe there's one day where there's no talks on.
Yeah. Well,
that and then because that was the difficulty. There's a lot of talks I like to go to, but I don't even look at going to them. I don't consider it because I just can't see. Prefer to be walking around trying to talk to different people in the stands.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I heard a lot of people this year were trying to get their CPD or, seeing other business talks or whatever it was, and they'd spend almost the whole day doing that. And then by the time they hit the trade floor, everything's shut.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's just not enough time for them. So, because I feel like if you're there, you do want to walk around on the trade floor, find out the new products, find some people as well that you need to catch up with. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe we all just need to conference a bit better. You got to plan I feel like you got to plan your time, but it usually gets thrown out the window. You run into someone you haven't seen in 10 years or something, and then all of a sudden you're late for the next thing. And yeah. Anyway, but it's I feel like it was quite a large conference this year. I felt like it was even a little bit maybe a bit bigger than last year.
I thought it was.
Yeah. Even though maybe not as I like talking to a few people in the lead up, we were thinking that maybe there might not be as many people because of so many companies had such a tough winter with their businesses that they weren't going to be sending as many people. Yeah. But I feel like the product suppliers there was a lot more this year.
Particularly in the batteries.
Batteries, yeah.
Battery systems.
Battery systems, yeah, that's right. Well, you walk past these stands and all of a sudden there's you're like, oh, what's this box? Who is this company and what's this box that you do? Like they're all doing these different things, these batteries in a box, or they integrate with something, or it's pretty cool, but it's pretty overwhelming too.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, I just cut you off with your closing comments. So anyway, you were just mentioning, it's a great industry. You like catching up with people, and that's what makes the industry the people. I agree.
Yeah. And I suppose the only comment I will make is, particularly with more off-grid going on, I really enjoyed that webinar last week, or whatever it was, the off-grid one.
Yeah.
That. Because the people there were talking correctly what needs to be done, but it's a different market.
Oh, was that the round table? Okay. I haven't seen that yet. I might see if I can get a copy.
A week. And look, when you're dealing with the off-grid, it is the people's power. You've got to be a bit more. And so I think the reason why we start the accreditation scheme was to look after the customer.
Yep.
And, and also to installer to make sure they design the system right and weren't sued by a customer who added the loads.
Yeah.
And I think that's still just relevant today. And so the original accreditation scheme is not the scheme of today because it's not focusing on the sales side as it originally was. So if there was any change I'd like to see, but now it's so tied in with the STCs, which wasn't originally. But that's something to be considered, that there's no focus on are people doing designs of off-grid systems correctly. That's not the BB final comment to push that gets looked into. The new standard 4509 again will be pushing that, obviously. But that is a critical thing.
Interesting. I noticed, like I'm not totally over the 4509. One thing I'd noticed just working at the CEC and everything is originally it was, I think it was recommended 5 days of autonomy for an off-grid system. Now, what is it? What do you reckon?
Right. Now, it literally like, 5 days if you've got no generator backup.
Yeah, no generator. That's right. Yeah.
There was a study. I did a thing 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. You'll find it somewhere on GSES.
Yeah.
So if you, cause it said 3 days, and now if the price of solar, and even more price of solar now, you can get the radiation data for every day now back to 1990 for a site.
Yep.
So I wrote a program and actually did and said, right, if I had 3 days autonomy and system was sized exactly right.
Yep.
Yeah. How many blackouts would I get, or generator starts a year? And then I did the program so you did up to 100% oversizing.
Yep.
And so basically you could probably, drop it down to about 1 to 2 days.
1 to 2 days.
By oversizing the array.
Yep.
By way oversizing the array. So there'll be a lot more has got to be done in that area of looking at, because the batteries are the expensive part.
Yeah, that's right.
You do want to make sure that if you do have periods of bad weather, the customer is prepared to put the generator on.
Yeah.
And so you might have to do having a good look at the lowest irradiation level you'll get over a period of time.
Yep.
So a lot more analysis actually would need to be done to do that. But so no, the 5 days is what I used to put in 30 years ago, but nowadays
you don't see many systems with 5 days anymore.
No. But like, if you designed on average, you've got to have a few days.
Yeah, you do.
Average mean.
That's right.
And you've got to have the storage there to take the excess solar on the good day.
Yeah.
To be there for the bad day. But now, at the cost of solar,
that's right.
You can put so much extra solar on that.
That's right. It makes it easier. Well, I suppose if you put the less days of autonomy you have, the more prepared you're going to have to be.
So what do you think? You think Michelle and I have been pushing almost 10 years?
Yeah, to get this new standard up.
Because it was 2009.
Yeah.
It was a different
long time ago now. It is a long time ago.
It's the last time. So yes.
Interesting. Good stuff. Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to close things off there, Geoff. Thanks again for coming. It was a really great episode. Mentioned you when you reached out to me in Sandy's episode, and we were able to organise this for the next time you're in Melbourne. So I appreciate you coming down and doing this. It's been a really great episode. Not really sure who I'm going to have next week. We're sort of getting into we're in the lead up to Christmas, and most people will be listening to this will be right in the thick of Christmas. Who knows? It may even be Christmas when you're listening. So Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy New Year as well.
Yep, same from here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so it's been a blast with Geoff Stapleton. Thanks very much, everyone, for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Solar Sidekicks. Thank you.